Marcus Thompson adjusted his tie as he approached the VIP section of the corporate conference hall. As CEO of Techno-Forward Industries, he'd been invited to speak at the National Business Leaders Summit in Chicago. The event was a big deal. Fortune 500 executives, industry pioneers, and political figures all gathered under one roof. He built Techno-Forward from a small startup in his garage 15 years ago into a billion-dollar tech company. Now at 38, he was one of the youngest black CEOs in the Fortune 500, and he wore that responsibility with pride and purpose. Excuse me, sir, came a sharp voice behind him as he settled into his assigned VIP seat in the front row. Marcus turned to see a middle-aged white man in an expensive suit, flanked by two event staff members, a nervous-looking young woman with a clipboard and a security guard. I'm afraid there's been some kind of mistake, the man continued, his tone dripping with condescension. This section is reserved for VIP guests and speakers only. Marcus raised an eyebrow, his voice calm and measured. I'm Marcus Thompson, CEO of Techno-Forward Industries. I'm the keynote speaker for this afternoon's session. He pulled out his phone to show his confirmation email. The man who Marcus now noticed wore a badge identifying him as Richard Hartwell, event coordinator, barely glanced at the phone. Look, I don't know how you got that seat assignment, but I've got Mr. Patterson here who specifically requested this spot. He gestured to an elderly white gentleman standing nearby, looking somewhat uncomfortable with the situation. Mr. Patterson is a major donor to the Chamber of Commerce, the young woman added quietly, consulting her clipboard. His assistant called this morning about the seating arrangement. Marcus felt that familiar tightness in his chest, the same feeling he'd experienced countless times throughout his career when his competence, his right to be in certain spaces, was questioned. But he'd learned long ago to channel that frustration into focused determination. I understand Mr. Patterson's importance, Marcus replied, standing up slowly. At 6'2", he had a commanding presence that made Hartwell take a half step back. But this is my assigned seat. I'm speaking in 20 minutes about innovation in the digital age. Perhaps we should call the main organizer Susan Chun to sort this out. Hartwell's face reddened. Sir, I don't think you understand. This is a very exclusive event. The VIP section is for actual business leaders, board members, people of ... significance. The pause before significance hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Marcus felt the familiar sting of coded language he'd encountered throughout his career. The security guard shifted uncomfortably, and several nearby attendees had begun to notice the commotion. Are you suggesting I don't belong here? Marcus asked, his voice dangerously quiet. I'm suggesting, Hartwell replied, his confidence returning, that perhaps you'd be more comfortable in the general seating area. This is really for established executives, not up-and-coming entrepreneurs. The young woman with the clipboard, her name tag read Jennifer, looked mortified. She whispered something urgently to Hartwell, but he waved her off dismissively. Marcus pulled out his business card and handed it to Hartwell. Techno-Forward Industries. We developed the cloud infrastructure platform that powers 40% of the financial services industry. Last year's revenue, $1.2 billion. Perhaps you've heard of us? Hartwell glanced at the card with obvious skepticism. Anyone can print business cards these days. That's when Marcus decided he'd had enough. He pulled out his phone and made a call that would change everything. Susan? Hi, it's Marcus Thompson. Yes, I'm here at the summit. Actually, there's a situation with your event coordinator. He briefly explained the incident while Hartwell's face grew increasingly pale. Within 3 minutes, Susan Chun, the summit's chief organizer, came rushing over with 2 of her senior staff members. She was a powerful woman in the business world, known for her no-nonsense approach and fierce commitment to diversity and inclusion. Mr. Thompson, I am so incredibly sorry, she began, but Marcus held up a hand. Susan, let's handle this properly. He turned to address not just the immediate group, but the growing crowd of onlookers that now included several other major CEOs and business leaders. I want everyone to understand what just happened here. His voice carried clearly across the VIP section. I was told I didn't belong in the seat. I was assigned because I'm not a person of significance. I was told this section is for established executives, not up-and-coming entrepreneurs. Despite being the CEO of a Fortune 500 company and today's keynote speaker, I was asked to move to general seating to make room for someone else. A murmur of shock and anger rippled through the crowd. Marcus recognized several faces, other black executives, women leaders, and allies who had faced similar challenges. Susan Chun's expression hardened as she turned to Hartwell. Is this true? Hartwell stammered. There was confusion about the seating arrangements. The only confusion, Marcus interrupted, was the assumption that a black man couldn't possibly be successful enough to deserve this seat. Jennifer, the young assistant, suddenly spoke up. Mr. Chun, I tried to tell Mr. Hartwell that Mr. Thompson was on the speaker list, but he wouldn't listen. This isn't the first time something like this has happened with VIP seating when attendees are diverse. Susan's face went through several shades of red. She was known for running tight, professional events, and this kind of discrimination was exactly the opposite of everything she stood for. Mr. Hartwell, she said, her voice ice cold. You're fired, effective immediately. Jennifer, please escort him out and ensure his access badges are revoked. You can't just, Hartwell began. Actually, I can. And I am. Susan turned to the security guard. Please see that Mr. Hartwell leaves the premises, but Marcus wasn't finished. He'd made another call during the commotion, this one to his head of human resources. Sarah? Yes, it's Marcus. Remember that consulting contract we were considering with Premier Event Solutions for our corporate retreats? The $1 million one? Cancel it. Immediately. Because their senior staff just demonstrated they don't share our company values. He hung up and looked directly at Hartwell, whose face had gone ashen. Premier Event Solutions was Hartwell's primary employer, the company he worked for when not doing freelance coordination. You see. Richard, Marcus said, using the man's first name deliberately. When you're actually a person of significance, your decisions have consequences. Premier Event Solutions just lost a 7-figure contract because of your actions today. The crowd had grown larger, and several people were recording the interaction. Marcus knew this would be on social media within hours, but he didn't care. Some lessons needed to be public. Furthermore, Marcus continued, I'll be reaching out to my network other black executives, women leaders, and anyone who values equality to share our experience with Premier Event Solutions. In the business world, reputation is everything. Susan stepped forward. Mr. Thompson, again, I cannot express how sorry I am. This does not represent the values of this summit or our organization. Marcus nodded. Susan, I know you personally, and I know this isn't reflective of your standards. But it does highlight a systemic problem. How many other qualified people have been made to feel unwelcome at events like this? How many haven't spoken up? He looked around at the diverse faces in the crowd, people who had clearly experienced similar situations. This is bigger than one ignorant event coordinator. Marcus continued. This is about creating systems that recognize talent and achievement, regardless of what someone looks like. As security escorted a shell-shocked Hartwell away, Marcus turned to Mr. Patterson, the elderly gentleman who had requested the seat. Mr. Patterson, I believe you wanted this seat? Patterson, who had remained silent during the entire exchange, stepped forward. "Son, I never asked for your seat specifically. I just asked for good seating. What happened here was wrong, and you handled it with more grace than I would have." He extended his hand to Marcus. "I've heard great things about TechnoForward. Perhaps we should discuss some business opportunities." Marcus shook his hand, smiling genuinely for the first time since the incident began. 20 minutes later, Marcus took the stage to deliver his keynote address. But before he began his prepared remarks about digital innovation, he addressed what had just happened. Ladies and gentlemen, what you witnessed in the VIP section wasn't unusual, it was just visible. Every day, in boardrooms and conference halls across America, qualified people are told they don't belong. Today, we changed that narrative. The standing ovation lasted 3 full minutes. As Marcus began his actual presentation, he knew that sometimes the most important lessons aren't in the planned curriculum, they're in the moments when we choose to stand up and demand the respect we've earned.